I had gone to an appointment at 19 weeks and I was told I needed to go on bed rest. So I was at home on bed rest for 5 weeks. I went in for a routine appointment on Tuesday, September 1st at 8 o'clock. We found out that we were having twin girls. And so we were, yay, woohoo. And then we go to see the doctor, and he's like, you need to go across the street and spend the rest of your time on bed rest there, which we're from Terre Haute, Indiana. And I was like, okay. So we go over to the hospital. I get on the hospital gown, and the nurse goes, did he tell you anything about IU? And I said, no, but that's not good. And so I was lifelined here. I gave birth to our daughters at IU, and they spent their entire NICU stay here. They were born at 24 weeks and 3 days. After the girls were born, they were both intubated, obviously, and Grace, twin A, actually got extubated a couple of days in, where Hope had to go onto the jet ventilator, which is a higher power than just regular intubation. So I had kind of both gamuts. And then when Grace started going down after about 2 weeks, and she really went downhill with the ventilators. But, they both had their PDA ligation, and the nurses and the doctors said they're either going to soar or they're not. And you don't understand what that means. You're like, again, I'm like, my kids are going to soar. Well, Grace had hers about a week before Hope, and Grace did not have a good aftermath. That was one of the hardest days in the NICU. Now, Hope, when she had hers, she was like, bring it. She, was uphill from there. There are good times, and there's hard times like that. Like for me, my husband couldn't understand why I wanted so many receiving blankets. I had every single receiving blanket Target, Walmart, Kmart had to offer. And he was like, why? I said, because this is what I can control. This is how I dress them, every day or every other day when it was changed. And after that, he quieted down. And because that was the control I had for a while, because they weren't dressed for, I don't even remember the rule, but at one time I could have told you. It's so important as a NICU parent, because more than likely you're not going to have multiple NICU visits at multiple NICUs across the country. Maybe I don't know the stats on that, but ask questions. Your nurses, I know here at Riley, and I'm sure the policy is the same, once you're here, the same nurses kind of take care of your kiddo or kiddos, because they know that child's routine, they know their cries, they know, they just know, start to know that child. And just ask, because nobody is going to say, well, that was a stupid question, because I asked a lot of questions. And write things down. I had a journal, and I had a notebook, and I jotted everything down. I still have it. From day one to the day they were discharged, I wrote things down about when the doctors would round, and at nighttime, if I thought of a question, I would ask it in morning rounds. And just don't be afraid to ask. When somebody else gets to go home in a week's time, celebrate that, because it was hard for them too in those few days. Because if you talk to other parents, you're going to probably know what's going on with that child. But just be happy that they get to take their baby home, and that know eventually you will too. And that's how I looked at it. Because I always said, that will be me someday. That will be me someday, and it was. Eventually it was us. And some people have longer stays than what we did. And it's just different. Every NICU parent I've talked to, it's very different how long their child, or tend to have multiples, their multiples were in there. So that would be my best advice, is there's ups and downs, highs and lows amongst your NICU family. Celebrate the highs. Be there with each other for the lows. Don't do what I did. Take a little bit of time. Come and sit in the lounge. I never did that. One day a couple other moms and we walked over to Hot Box Pizza. The first time we actually ventured to the cafeteria. Like, we got off the 3rd floor. And then we're like, next week we might go to Hot Box. And we did. We walked to Hot Box Pizza. But that obviously our kids were in a better place at that point where we felt more comfortable doing that. But you need to do that too. That would be my advice. And talk if you need to talk. Punch a pillow if you need to punch a pillow. Don't be afraid to cry. Don't be afraid to smile.